Alright, hello guys, this is James from the Singapore University of Technology and Design. Today I'm going to be talking about Buddhism, essentially about Dukkha or suffering. But before that, let's have a brief history, a fun history on Buddhism itself. So Buddhism is founded by this guy, Siddhartha Gautama. He was a prince in India back around 6th century BCE. And well, he started Buddhism because he went out of his palace and he looked at the sick, the old age, and the dying people. From then on, he decided that he should leave his luxurious lifestyle and go on a path to reach enlightenment. So what we're going to talk about today is this, Dukkha, or in English it can be translated into suffering. Suffering, although the direct translation is suffering, it can also be loosely translated into unsatisfactoriness. So the Buddha puts a lot of importance on suffering, that after reaching enlightenment, he straight away taught to his disciples all on suffering. And he called this theory the Four Noble Truths. So essentially, I'm going to be going to more in depth of what is these four truths, starting from first to the last. And I'm going to, in this video, I'm going to summarize to help you further understand what is Dukkha that is meant by Buddha. All right, and let's proceed to the first truth. The first truth essentially is talking about the existence of Dukkha. So the Dukkha can be categorized into three main categories. One being the physical and mental suffering that the human body or any physical body will feel. Second is the unsatisfactoriness due to our desire to cling on impermanent things. This impermanence is a very important concept in Buddhism, and I will come back to that later. And last is the basic form of suffering because of ever-changing life form, because life is constantly changing, hence we all feel suffering. And Buddha taught the first truth essentially to help us have the right view and perspective on suffering, and this will build on to the second, third, and the fourth truth. Alright, and let's now continue to proceed to the second truth. The second truth is essentially speaking about the origin of Dukkha. So what's the origin of Dukkha? The Buddha will answer, impermanence. But what is wrong with impermanence? The Buddha is saying that everything is a continuous, constantly changing life stream. Hence, there is no permanent entity or there is no enduring substantial reality in this world. Hence, it is important to not have attachment, because attachment is our ultimate source of suffering. Maybe this may be hard to understand, but let me use an example. Let's say I have this favorite pen, and I like this pen so much that I grew attached to this pen. But now, when this pen becomes broken or lost, let's say I just lost my pen, I'll feel very sad because I just lost my favorite pen. And this, according to the Buddha, is the source of suffering. I felt a sense of unsatisfactoriness because I just lost my pen. And that is, I can summarize that as the second truth, meaning our attachment to enduring entity that doesn't exist in this world causes our suffering. So that's the origin of suffering. Alright, let's continue to the third truth. In the third truth, the Buddha talked about the end. So he gives us a glimmer of hope that there exists the end of suffering. And he says that when all suffering perishes from an individual, he or she will find true happiness. So what is this end of suffering? The Buddha describes it as nirvana. Nirvana has a direct English translation of extinguishing. So that means extinguishing all suffering. And although it is the final goal of Buddhism, it is not necessarily the same with Christianity or Islam, because it is not like heaven or hell, where there's a place where the soul or spirit can go after his death, but it is more of a state of mind where the person's or the individual's wrong perception on all these worldly things or entity have been cleared, and he only thinks about the truth and only the truth. So only when he understands that the truth is the truth, or he doesn't have any more wrong notions of the world, he reaches enlightenment, and he will find true happiness, and that's the point where he reaches nirvana. Because in the third truth, the Buddha spoke about the end of suffering. In the fourth truth, he actually gave us his way or his method so that we ourselves can reach the end of suffering. So the fourth truth is talking about the end, the way to the end of the suffering. And the Buddha called this method the Noble Eightfold Path. And he described the Noble Eightfold Path as being the middle way. It is the middle way from two extremes, where you are not actually accepting human desires, but also not fully committing to full mortification. So you're just in the right, just as the name says, you're right in the middle. And let's talk more about the Eighth Noble Path. So the Eightfold Noble Path essentially talks first. It says right view. What the Buddha means here is, so to have the right view is to see things from the neutral perspective. So you look at things from the middle, where you are not biased to certain side, but looking from the neutral perspective. Second is when you have a right view, you will have the right intention. When you have the right intention, you can find a goal, and that goal is the end. And when you find the goal, you can actually start working on speaking the right words in right speech, and then doing the right action towards the other human beings to have in right action. And when you have fulfilled this, you will live a life with virtue and love for each other, and that's the right livelihood that the Buddha mentioned here. And finally, when you go after right livelihood, you go to right effort, and when you have the right effort, you will start working harder to achieve the nirvana, and then you will have the right mindfulness. So you are aware of any wrong thoughts, any wrong perspective that may come to you, or that may causes you to have attachment to this worldly object. Then finally, when all of these are fulfilled, you will have the right concentration to actually go to work and meditate towards nirvana. And when all of this is done, your previously attachment, when you previously have attachment, you will finally cancel all attachment with this world entity, and you will have detachment. So only when you are detached from all worldly entity, you will find nirvana, or you have all your suffering erased from your mind. But the Buddha also notices the importance of suffering in our life. Let me quote the Dalai Lama saying, if you are able to transform adverse situation into factors of the spiritual path, hindrances will become favorable practice in your spiritual practices. So here we take a look and you need to understand that even though our end goal is to extinguish all suffering or dukkha, that it is important to use dukkha to help us to propagate ourselves into enlightenment. Because only through understanding of suffering, we can go into the opposite side of not having suffering at all. And thus, I would like to say that it is of utmost importance to consider dukkha as being the central issue of Buddhist doctrine. And awareness of dukkha will help propagate our understanding of Buddhist philosophy further. Alright guys, this is all from me today. I hope my video helps you understand the Buddhist doctrine further, especially on dukkha or suffering. And if you like the video, give it a like, and if you don't understand certain aspect of the video, you can leave me a comment below, and I'll see you again.